Good morning and welcome to Fat Cow Farm. Now, I got motivated after doing that little video for everyone about the results after 1 year in reference to our Keyline cuts. And on that video, what I was saying is that what I wanted to do was actually increase the cuts in between our original ones that we did last year. And I suppose that we're in the, what are we? We've just hit winter and still waiting for the rains to come and everything else. But they do tell me that they're due in the next couple of days. And I thought, right, today's the day. I'm gonna get out here and put some extra key lines in. And so what I've been doing is just running around over the last couple of days, getting my contours right. And you would have seen how I've done that on previous videos. But a lot of people are saying, you know, how do they actually work, and what are the are the cattle going to put their feet in there and things like that. So what I wanted to do was actually just show you the demographic, or not demographic, but the geology of what the Keyline is, and so that we can put a few things to rest really. So what's happened is that we don't have a yeoman's plow or anything like that, so we have to do single cuts. And what we have is a single tine ripper, which is a pipe layer. So we're using basically a pipe layer to cut through here. And what we're finding, and I suppose this is a good place as any, when the rain comes through, what's happening is that it's the way that the pipe layer, and I suppose all rippers are very similar, is that what happens is that they're bringing the soil up to the surface. So hence you can see this mount here. Hey Mo, out of the way. Yeah. And you can see how it's bringing the soil back up to the surface. Sit down. Sit. Good girl. Up. And what we're finding is that it's almost damming itself. So if we were to look at what we have here, you can see that it's quite steep. And so what's happening now is that as the rain comes through, it's pooling on the backside of these cuts all the way through, having then time to seep into these channels. You can see it's cold, there's obviously no growth going on, but what we're finding is that it will then seep into these cuts and then distribute out. So that's effectively what's been happening. And if we go back to some of the original cuts that we made, we were looking at growth here, a lot of growth in here, and then growth on the downside as well. Originally what we had done is we had probably around about 50 meters in between our Keyline cuts. And at the moment, what we're looking at is I've then gone back into those original sections of where we had our Keyline cut and put another 2 through. So we're now down to, let's say 25, close to maybe about 15 to 20 meters apart, depending on where the contour sort of sits. So as you can see behind me here, you can see another section that's come through. So this section's quite flat. So that space here is probably close to around about 30 to 40 meters. But if we then look up towards the top of our hill here, you can see where I've cut all the way through the top. And some on the steeper sections, they're a lot closer together. And as it becomes flat, they're further apart, and that's just the way that the contours are working. So until you actually start marking out your contour lines, you really don't know exactly where the cuts are going to go. But up the top, they're coming around this sort of hill here, around and around and around, and then as we become a little bit flatter through this section here, they become a little bit more wider apart. And also too, we've got natural valleys and not obvious ones, but ones that would concentrate a rainfall, and then that's where the curves and everything else start to sort of form up. So what I wanted to do was just sort of touch base. Now these, soon as these get wet, they tend to collapse on themselves. So as in reference to having cattle come through and put their foot in them or anything like that, and you know, the cut's only about 300 mil anyway, so it'd be something like that. And as it gets wet, that'll slowly start falling in on itself. With that loose soil, it becomes heavy and then starts falling to the bottom. So if you look at some of the, and you would have seen that in previous videos, some of our earlier ones that we did last year, basically all they are now are just mounds, all caved in, ready to go. And that's what I'm thinking is that come early winter or late autumn, you start adding in these extra keyline cuts from where your originals were. And I think we've mentioned this previously, was that when you get to then the bottom, and you might have maybe 20 meters apart, whatever it may be, you can then start back and going over the originals. I really wanted to sort of then have a look at, you know, really why we're doing this. Now, this particular hill here, and I'm sure that if you can see up to the woodland edge, we have something on the other side of the fence. We've got some exposed clay, and this is typically what this is. So what's been happening is that we're getting a lot of rain coming through, and that's a steep section up there, and it's taking all that topsoil away as it's running down the hill. So what we've done is we're now stopping that event of heavy rains taking topsoil away. So what will effectively happen because we've got now 100% cover, we're holding our soil together. But now what will end up happening is that should we have any little sandy spots or whatever it may be, it's not going to run too far before it stops and have chance to build back up and then make its way back up the hill. So that's effectively what I can see after the 1 year event that has gone through, because we mentioned that on our swale, which is running at the bottom of this property. You might be able to pick up the fence line, or this paddock, sorry, you might be able to pick up that fence line, and then you've got a mount. Well, that is our swale for this paddock. So what we're finding, even over that year where we had heavy rain, these swales were getting full. What I'm now will be expecting is that these keyline cuts will stop a lot of that runoff coming into those swales, and then the swales will start filling up from underground. So they'll start seeping through the banks. And of course, obviously with rainfall itself. But I think that's really what I wanted to do, was sort of just touch base, because I got myself all motivated going, right, I've got to have to do it. The season has come. I've been talking about it for such a long time that, yep, you have to put your cuts in and everything else and try and catch that rain as much as we can. And now that we've got rain coming up through the week, we've got it in a couple of days, I thought, right, what an opportunity. I'll get out on the tractor and we'll sort a few things out and get those cuts in. So hopefully then next year we'll start seeing some better results, and then better results and better results as time goes by. But as a reference to the pipe layer, and I'll show you, and I can only show you basically what we have and what we've been using, is that this is our single tine ripper with the pipe layer. So basically what we have here is the cut itself, which is 75 mil across, and that's really designed for the installation of pipes. And you can see really that's where the paint is worn off. That's really the top of the cut is there, so that's about 300 mil. And as that comes through, it gets into this wider section, and what's happening there is that when this is in the ground, this is tilted forward, and what's happening is that it's bringing that soil to the surface, which is where we're getting our mounds from. But in turn, if you were to put a pipe in this, obviously it gets fed in from the top, the pipe goes in, comes through and out this section here, and the soil itself closes in on itself and gives that pipe a chance to grip, and then it lays all the way through. So really, you know, a fantastic bit of kit where you can start using it, you know, for other things as well. All right, so we've done a heap of videos on getting that pipe layer working and putting pipes in and all that sort of stuff, so you'd have to go back through the collection a little bit, but I won't start it today. But I just really wanted to sort of say thank you to everyone to getting me motivated again and getting all these extra cuts done. So I think now what we've got is close to about 17 cuts running up the hill. And that was basically, again, what I was mentioning is that we were talking about the spacings. So as the spacings came down, I've basically come down that side and worked it out at around about, I think it was about 20 paces. But when you then look at contour, a lot of them become a little bit narrower, a lot of them get a little bit wider, and so on and so on. So it's just contour of the land. So there we go. I thought, thank you. Motivation is done. We're going to catch more rain now and hopefully start improving our pastures once again. So for all about keyline cuts, improving your pastures, getting all that soil and that moisture back into the ground, like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.